Hello and welcome to the firm. On the show this week, Abraham raises a stink. Will SEBI pass the smell test? And the Supreme Court adds colour to the Berger-Paynes precedent, says inconsistent tax treatment should be explained via guidelines. Our top story this week is the story that's been hogging all the headlines. The issue of regulatory independence seems to have hit a new low thanks to a three-way war of words involving Dr. K.M. Abraham, his former whole-time member at SEBI, UK Sinha, the current SEBI chairman, and the Finance Ministry. Abraham has accused the Finance Ministry of interfering in high-profile cases being decided at SEBI. The ministry says his allegations are, and I quote, defamatory, devoid of truth, and are a complete distortion of facts. Abraham has accused UK Sinha too of interfering at the ministry's behest. Sinha has denied the allegations, calling them unfounded and motivated. He's also said Dr. Abraham is suffering from a persecution complex and delusion. Abraham says he is being harassed by the tax department regarding the purchase of an apartment in Mumbai. The ministry says it has received several complaints that the apartment was purchased at a concessional rate from an entity that had benefited from the sale of the office space to NSE. Remember, NSE is closely regulated by SEBI. Sinha has apparently given Abraham a clean chit on that apartment transaction, but he says Abraham was frustrated as he was neither given extension as SEBI whole-time member nor given the post of Director NISM, which he canvassed with the chairman to the state of embarrassment, and that Abraham interfered to try and prevent SEBI from changing its stand on NSDL. Now, Abraham has raised quite a stink. The question is, will SEBI pass the smell test? Joining me to discuss that are Sucheta Dalal. She's a very well-known financial journalist and managing editor of Money Life. She's watched SEBI from very close quarters for many years now. And joining me from Jaipur, Pradeep Mehta, founder, Secretary General of CUTS, a consumer organization that also tracks regulatory reform. Pradeep, Sucheta, thank you very much for joining me. Sucheta, I'd like to put my very first question to you, since you've been on top of the story right from day one and you have more information and detail than any of us do. Is this a straight case of ministerial interference, or is there more here than meets the eye?
Well, it may be a case of ministerial interference, but then, that is the tradition in India. The ministry has always interfered. Even when SEBI was set up, the ministry was interfering. The ministry didn't want to part with powers. There's nothing new about it.
All right.
It has happened throughout Mr. Bhave's tenure, including in his own appointment.
But that it's old doesn't make it any better, does it? So do you believe that this story has more weightage or places more weightage on Mr. Abraham's accusations against the ministry and Mr. Sinha? Or would you believe the other side, which calls Mr. Abraham all kinds of names and says that in fact his allegations are motivated?
See, personally, I feel that there is something very, very strange about Mr. Abraham's allegations. In fact, I would like to know, maybe Mr. Mehta knows better, but, isn't he a serving IAS officer? And he paints himself as a whistleblower. As far as I can see, there are service rules that require him maybe to go to the Ministry of Personnel or to the Cabinet Secretary. I mean, how does every IAS officer jump up and write about his bosses to the Prime Minister? This is news to me. I thought there were service rules that governed it. In fact, I'm fairly certain there are.
All right, maybe the process was wrong, but do you believe that he has reason to complain?
If you look at what we have written in the last 3 years about how SEBI has been functioning, the manner in which consent orders are issued, the strange creature called administrative warnings that they have been issuing by the hundreds, they've been letting the same people get away with the same offense as much as 5 and 6 and 7 times. And we have written to them repeatedly asking them what it is. For instance, administrative orders are the most shocking thing I've ever come across. And I have written to the chairman and I've written to all the board members in SEBI and I've asked them what these are. None of them even bothered to reply. So I think there was a lot that was wrong at SEBI in the last 3 years, including starting from the way the chairman was appointed, starting from the, going on to the manner in which NSDL's case was handled, how the orders were declared non-est, how they were declared est again. I think there was a really nasty, set of things that were happening in SEBI in the last 3 years. So I wouldn't go by what Mr. Abraham is saying at all, because he had no problems all these 3 years. If he was complaining about things that happened during that tenure, I would take it more seriously when he's talking about 3 months when he's on his way out.
I'm not aware of the government rules, but apparently if the Finance Ministry was putting a pressure on Abraham, then what he did, the right thing was to go to the Prime Minister's office. I don't know whether the DOPT would have been the right kind of forum. I don't see anything wrong per se that he went to the Prime Minister's office. The only tragedy is the timing was a bit wrong. This happened when he was about to ask for his extension, and therefore people have misconstrued that to be a case of sour grapes, which may not be actually the fact. Now, he was working there for 3 years. If in case they found his performance to be bad, they should have taken action earlier. The point here is the Finance Ministry interfering in the work vis-a-vis a particular case is something which, if you ask Damodaran or D.R. Mehta, they would also, bear with me that there are many instances where the Finance Ministry has interfered in the regulator's function. Now, how the regulator comes out of these kind of pressures would depend entirely on how strong the regulator is, what kind of character he is.
Irrespective of whether Dr. Abraham is in the right or in the wrong, the way this has come to light, the leaked letters, the shadow boxing that's been going on, the 3-page press release that came out from the Finance Ministry, I mean, all of this is doing more damage to SEBI than, a cleanup, if at all one was required, would have done.
Absolutely, Menka, you're completely right. To start with, I agree completely with what Mr. Mehta said, that they should be accountable to Parliament. One of the problems in the last 20 years is that SEBI is not accountable to Parliament. If it can manage the standing committee, as in, let some things fly below the radar, it gets away with all kinds of mischief. The second problem is that SEBI has become such a fantastic posting in terms of perks and power and other things that the kind of lobbying that's going on for each of those posts from chairman to whole-time members is obscene. And I think something needs to be done to correct this situation in the interest of the capital market.